Welcome back to the Launch Party podcast, where we want to lift off in a stratosphere of success and take you guys along for the ride. We've got a banger here today, coming from another part of the world. We're growing, we're launching all around America, Europe. We're gonna get some Latin America. Shoot, we're gonna have some Africa, some Asia soon. Like we're the Launch Party network is
International.
slowly expanding. So this is exciting. Um, so Danny found us a great guest here. Danny, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. Yeah, we're going worldwide. We're going international here at the launch party. So thanks for everybody that's listening. Luckily, through our last episode, if you guys tuned into that with Chris Sutter, talked about numerology, his story, a lot of interesting things. I got connected with Matteo through Chris and just reached out to him, and I saw he had some cool stuff on YouTube. So we'll definitely, Matteo, we'll put all your stuff down in the description if you guys want to check him out after this. A lot of great advice, cool guy. And luckily we were able to figure out a time to all get on the call together. Mateo, thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Yeah, no, your episode with Chris Sutter was fantastic. Chris and I were in Valencia at the same time, so he was talking about the podcast, and glad I tuned in. Yeah, appreciate it. Love being here. Love podcasts.
Yeah. So I mean, we kind of want to get into your story. I mean, what do you got going on now? You just took like 2 flights. You're all over the place. What are you doing?
Yeah, tell us
Yeah,
about
2
your
flights
last day
today.
or so.
So this morning I was in Barcelona, but I was only in Barca for 24 hours because I had come from Madrid. I was in Madrid earlier for a full week. That's where I'm moving. So Madrid, I'm establishing myself there. So I went to Barca for 24 hours, met up with some Tribe guys. Some people might be familiar with Tribe. That's Arlen Moore's social circle network with entrepreneurs and other interesting people, DJs. Met a lot of cool people. That's how I met Chris, actually. So I met up with the Tribe guy, did Soho House in Barca, nice. And then this morning left Barca, went to Geneva, and I had lunch with someone who I did business with last year as a startup for an AI space. He's also a Tribe guy. And then I came here to Montenegro, which I'm at now, and I'm meeting up with Chris again. I'm seeing him, Will Coomer, and a bunch of other guys in what's known as Compass. It's another group. Compass is awesome. And yeah, so that's going to be here in Montenegro, so that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Yeah, guys. So Mateo's got a really interesting story. We'll kind of get into it right here. Born in Colombia,
real
Bolivia.
quick. Yeah. Real quick question for you, Mateo. How is Compass doing? I remember Chris was telling me when it was first being sort of launched, like has it picked up pretty well and turned into a cool thing?
Oh, Compass is elite, brother. Yeah, they're actually in Egypt right now. Like they have a full blown
nice.
So the thing about the guy who started Compass, Will Coomer, is he is a expert at curating events. Like, and he is so good at this. He's been doing this for years, so he knows all the minor things people don't look into. Like, he's really well at handling communities. I've been involved in a bunch of digital communities, and usually the talks like linger and they eventually die after like a month. His Compass chats are always active. People are helping each other out, and he has a really good filter, and he has really good discernment as to who's a good person, who's not. So people in there, they'll give their shirt off their backs. They'll help you out. I actually had a call while I was in Soho House. I took a quick call with someone from Compass because I had some problems with my agency and I had a question. And this guy took time out of his day. I know how much his hour costs, and he just helped me out with some questions. So yeah, Compass is elite. It's awesome.
Yeah, actually, that's a good segue because I did
I'm
want
glad
to
to
talk
hear
to you
that.
about these online communities. So how do you get involved in these communities like Compass or Tribe? What do you get out of these things generally? How do you find a good one, or how do you start one? What are your 2 cents on all that?
Yeah, I think first, I don't think it's a substitute for real life. As you've noticed, the whole central aspect, I think, of Compass is these in-person meetups and experiences. That's where you really, add color to those relationships. But it's very similar to in real life, where if you find someone who just met you and is immediately pitching you, hey, I can do this for you, or like you can do this for me, and like try to really establish a transactional type of flavor to the relationship, that is not really welcome. People don't really like that. You have to organically like comment,
Right.
engage with someone, show interest, give interest. So that's the first thing I would do if you start an account or if you find yourself with someone you want to create or join their community or create a relationship with. Build that organically. Like, don't like force feed it. You don't want to make them drink from the
Yeah.
water hose. Just
Yeah.
engage with their stuff. If they comment, they usually post long captions because they're good for retention. If they mention something, point it out like in the next post or like a few weeks down, like just give a shit, right? Just be human. Do that, and then eventually you'll tap into their network. You'll see that these people tend to be connected with each other, and then you can ask about it and be like, "Oh yeah, Danny's a cool kid. He's checks out, right?"
And then so you guys kind of help each other out, give advice, do podcasts or do collabs. Is that how these groups kind of go? And then the real life events.
Yeah. I think one thing you'll notice is people keep saying like-minded people. I think one of these minded tenets is that people give value unprompted. So Will has been on my podcast. Like, I have a podcast as well. And he just knew, he's like, yeah, I'll help you out with your audience. We'll cross-pollinate audiences. We'll just talk. And I didn't know about Compass later on, but like when he launched that, I was like, dude, of course I'll help you out. But it's stuff like that. You're constantly extending yourself for people who've extended themselves for you and people who haven't extended themselves yet. But that's just the type of person who I found are the most successful, is the type of person who just extends and gives value overwhelmingly all the time.
Yeah, I 100%
What
agree.
advice,
That's great advice,
would you
guys.
give to someone? What advice would you give to someone who has joined an online group and is going to their first in-person event? Or maybe it's a network, like a business networking event. They're buying a plane ticket, they're flying somewhere dope, and they're about to meet a bunch of sick guys. Right? Yeah, maybe it's their first time. They're like, oh shoot, I better not embarrass myself. Like, what advice would you give to that person?
I love that question. So before this call, I was telling you guys about the tribe event in Lisbon, right? And there were some people there who I had been following for a while, and I finally see them all together in this one room. I'm not gonna mention their names, but like they're like all together. This is not the biggest, but this is pretty big advice for especially very young guys. Resist the urge to label yourself as a fan, right? Like, don't do fan behavior. Do not get the selfie. Do not like be a kiss ass, right? Because
be a normal person.
Be a normal person, exactly. Like, be someone who wants to give value. And people say that, but you don't realize in order to give value, you have to have something of value. So like start, Esteban was talking about, he was doing door-to-door sales. Like, that's a skill. Like, he's building that up. Now he can give sales advice, sales value to people, but first he built that skill. So walking into these rooms, although it might be intimidating, realize that you probably are more skilled in something than someone else, no matter who they are. Like, you have strata of skills. So just try to give value in whatever you have an edge on. And then second, just social dynamics. Like, do not put these people on a pedestal because you are forcing them to look down on you, right? So just treat them like a human, be nice. And then this world is so small. If you do treat them like a celebrity, when you run into them again, they're forced to treat you like a fan, and you don't want that. You want them to treat you like a friend. Treat them like this is going to be a regular occurrence. Like, of course, we're going to meet each other all the time, right? So yeah, just be a normal person. I call it actually the orientation week energy, week energy. Like that first week of college, the first week of high school, the first week of anything. If you go to hostels, if you're traveling like that, everyone's always on this week energy, I call it, where they're always ready to extend themselves and say, hey, my name is Esteban. I do this, I do that. Like, what do you want to do? I try to maintain that every single time I meet people. This is another hack. Treat people and talk to them as though you're already friends, as though you already know them. Like, I do something called laugh tagging. So when I laugh, I like touch people to like, share the laugh. I do that with certain people. Be careful. Some people might not like that, but it's kind of like those small cues. Like, just treat someone as though that you're already close, and they are going to not want to resist that. Most people hate resistance, so they'll just treat you like a friend. So
I do have a question, because you brought up a really good point, and I don't think it's hit on enough. So if you want to make money in a free market, you need to provide value. So you have to have something that is valuable. And I fell victim to this as well when I was younger because I am young, but when I was younger, maybe high school, maybe like 17, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Okay. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means you start a business in something that you're good at. And I just had this idea watching Gary Vee or whatever that I was better than most people and I could definitely be an entrepreneur and be super successful. But now I think back, I'm like, well, what would I even do? Like when I'm 18 years old, I've never started a business. I'm not really good at anything in particular. All I did was play video games and like hang out with friends. It's like, how does a young person gain value in an economic environment? Like, what's your advice to that? Because right now, like as an 18-year-old, you're probably not really good at anything. So how do you figure out what you should do and how to get good at things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would embrace it. There's certain facts in life. Like one fact is simply that because you're 18, you have less reps, less sales calls, less everything, right? So of course it's natural. It's not. Don't feel bad about it. Of course you're gonna suck. Like it would be very strange if you're like amazing on your first go. So that's the first thing. Just accept it. It's normal. It's part of the process. The second thing is you can very shortcut it with volume. Alex Ramosi talks about this. Volume negates luck.
Mm-hmm.
If you overwhelm your week with sales calls, if you overwhelm just your system with inputs, you have no choice but to get really good at whatever you're doing, right? So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is so that's just volume. That's the volume game. You could also do strategic volume, which is you find people who have the results and you find what vehicles they use, what frameworks they use, what books they've read, and then you do a lot of volume with that filter, right? So that's what I would start with. And then, mentally though, your mental model has to be one of abundance. You can't just be like, oh, I suck and I'm supposed to win right off the bat. No, you are always going to eat shit no matter what age you are, no matter what. If you're brand new into something, you're going to suck at it. And that's just natural. And like you guys, here's the thing. I'm pretty different from other entrepreneurs you're going to talk to because I actually started a corporate career. Like I was 2 years deep, fully plugged into the matrix, and I was actually happy in the matrix, which is strange. Like honestly, like it was doing well with it, but I'm gonna skip that part of the story. But I found myself out of there, out of the corporate world, out of that security, and I had to start my own business and do all this stuff. And I found this quote that says, "Entrepreneurship is jumping off a cliff and trying to build a plane on your way down." Like that's the feeling you have all the time. So you're figuring things out, and that is just a feeling you have to get used to. Whether you're 18, whether you're 28 like me, that feeling of resourcefulness, of urgency, that's always going to be with you. So just get comfortable with it.
So I guess the advice is kind of just pick something and actually start doing it, and then you'll eventually get better.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Yeah, there's no secret formula. It's just
a
lot of volume.
Substitute for effort and
exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the thing with like traveling so much. That's one of the most universally respected things is effort. No matter who you are, no matter what you're doing. If I see an 8-year-old kid laying brick and he's working in the sun, I respect that kid. Like that kid has work ethic, right? Work ethic is universally respected everywhere. So just doing that, whatever you're doing, you are going to be noticed by people. And even if you're not, it's a good skill to have, like work ethic, but that opens doors in and of itself.
Yeah. Let's backtrack a little bit, Matteo, because I do want to get into your story and what you did there in corporate America. But real quick, if you just gotta sum up like your first 18 years of life, college, what'd you learn from all that? What'd you do? Where are you from?
Yeah, that's right. Let's back up. Who am I? So I was
Who
I was
are
born.
you?
Yeah, who is this guy? I was
Who the fuck is this guy?
I was born in Bolivia, it's the country right in the middle of South America. So it's half Andes, half Amazon. So I was born there, and when I was 2, my dad got a job offer in Singapore. So I went to Singapore, and I was there for the next 4 years till I was 6. Learned English there, Then I came to DC, Washington, DC. I was raised since I was 6 until I did all of college, all of high school, all of that there. So I went to Virginia Tech for college. I graduated in political science and national security studies because my university has a really strong funnel with the IC in DC. The IC is the intelligence community. So that's your CIA, DIA, FBI, State Department, all that. And I was going to do military intelligence. So I was going to go into the Army and do OCS, Officer Candidate School, go to Georgia. You guys are from Georgia, or Danny's from Georgia. I was going to do all that. But that was, this is the good thing about having mentors. I talk to people who are already down that road, and they're like, Mateo, you travel too much, you do all these things, like, consider something else. And so I digested that advice, and it turns out they were right. So I did something else. I went into management consulting. I was in DC for 2 years doing consulting. And yeah, I think I'll stop there. That's the core.
How did you get into consulting?
Yeah, go ahead.
So
how did you get into consulting?
Yeah. So social skills, like just talking to people, meeting people. The CEO of the firm I joined, he was actually a neighbor of like my neighborhood. So I would like see him every now and then, but I'd like talk, and he's like, "Oh, what are you graduating in?" And he was convinced I was going to go State Department, which is really CIA. I don't know if you guys know that. That's like, anyways. So like that, you just go in there. So he thought I was going to do that, but then when I was telling him out loud, like, yeah, I don't really feel like reporting my whereabouts every month and like have someone sign off on like where I am. I don't want to do that. So he's like, "Oh, well, how's your business skills?" I'm like, "Well, I don't really have any business skills." He's like, "All right, well, you're good at social skills. We can put you in like a business development role, do some consulting." And I'm like, "All right, maybe let's do that." So I applied. Like, that's the thing though. A lot of people think that having connections is like an immediate job. Sometimes it is. The cool thing about having connections is that you almost always get an interview. Like, you still have to do all the homework.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to like work really hard, crush the interviews. Sometimes you have case studies. For consulting, you have to do case studies to give you a fake client, fake situation. How would you address this? So I did that. But yeah, so did that, and it was a small enough firm where I wore so many hats. Because if I had gone to Deloitte and these big four companies, MBB, those guys, I would be doing very minimal things, working 80 hours. It would have been crazy. But with this role, I was immediately, he let me like become a scrum master. So I was running developers. I didn't know how to write a single line of code, but I was telling people what to do. So it was fun. So.
Yeah, I mean, management consulting is definitely a huge, or consulting in general, buzzword for the finance community, and everyone's trying to get into that. So, like you said, leverage your connections, network. What I would give for advice for people that want to get into like management consulting or investment banking, also known as IB, you gotta, if you don't know anybody, you gotta cold call and you gotta sell yourself, just like what Esteban does when he's trying to sell solar. He's selling a product, and the product is you. So you got to learn how to sell that. And the same goes for everything in business. And Matteo, you probably talk about this a lot on your podcast. It's all about just selling yourself and providing value, right?
Exactly. No, well said. A lot of people think they'll never use sales, but you're always selling yourself when you're going to a job, when you're trying to like present yourself to a partner. Like, you're selling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to have that foundation of sharp social skills and recognize that they are an actual skill. Did you guys hear me okay there? I feel like there was a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, like having social skills is just as important as knowing how to code, right? Knowing what to consult the prospect on, and having all that product knowledge and all that technical knowledge is great. But you got to take your social skills and your ability to just get out there and talk to people super, super seriously. Because truth is, you can make a whole entire income just off of that. And especially in today's world where getting the edge is ever more difficult, that's an easy one you can get. And you might not think so, but it's something you got to be conscious of and treat it as a skill just like anything else, which I don't think enough people do, especially in business roles where it can be super useful.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because when I stepped into the entrepreneur space, I didn't realize so many different ways of making money. Like, I have a friend, for instance, he made his first 10K a month by being a glue guy, which basically he would just connect people. He would notice there's like holes in supply demand between his different friend groups. He's like, oh, you need developers, and I have a friend with a bunch of tech, but he has no COO, no business flow. Like, there's nothing coming into his business. He's just sitting on a bunch of really expensive devs, connects them. He gets a cut of the deal, and that's just how he makes his money. So yeah, there's different ways of making money leveraging your social skills. That's massive.
Yeah, that's real interesting. Well, so you do the consulting route. What made you kind of want to transition? So on your YouTube channel, when I checked in, I don't know if you want to talk about this or hit on it at all, but
Let's
you
do
had a
it. Let's do it.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
right? And she was like a travel influencer, and you kind of jumped on that boat with her. I don't know how much of that story you want to get into, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's good for the soul. So she was actually my
Yeah.
high school sweetheart. So talk about 18. We met when we were 17.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we went to the same high school. By coincidence, we went to the same college. We probably would not have stayed together. Like, we had talked about that. And so we went to the same college, stuck it through. And so we ended up dating for 6 years. And then on that 6th year, I proposed to her. Like, we were already like consulting. She was doing consulting at a Big Four firm. And yeah, so we move in together. We're engaged. And then COVID happens. And so we're living in Denver at this point. I had negotiated for remote work from Denver because I didn't want to keep commuting to DC. It was fucking terrible. So I did DC all of 2020. And then we did Hawaii all of 2021. So I was living with this girl. And because of COVID, no one was traveling. So we started doing all these states when we were living in Denver, did a lot of Utah, a lot of national parks. So she started an Instagram account. It blew up, like, massive. She's at 100K something. She's really big. And so I was like flying the drone. I was like doing some of the stuff in the back end. I didn't want to make it a couple account because this is her passion project. She's amazing. She works super hard at it. And so it blew up. And then Hawaii just made it even bigger, right? So that. And then we were both doing corporate consulting, but when Hawaii happened, she quit her job and just like doubled down on it. I stayed with my job. Then at the end of our lease, like for Hawaii, she basically comes up to me. She's like, listen, like, we could do a really big thing and like do a world trip. And I was like, let's do it. Like, when am I going to get a chance to do something like this? I could have taken a sabbatical. I just decided, I'm out of here. Did that. We did Patagonia, started with South America, and then we ended up in Bali, Canggu, amazing. And then in Bali, we break up. Just had a discussion. Like, she's building her business. Like, she's really, really business savvy. She's really very sharp. And so she's like, I have a direction I want to take things. And like I was telling you earlier, like, I was so plugged into the matrix. I was getting kind of worried. Like, this is the first time I didn't have cash flow. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, yeah, no, I need to get back to the DC. I want certain things, like, as a man, like, I want certain like security things set in stone. So we're just going separate directions. So she goes off. She's super successful, like, still is, like, does a lot of stuff. I'm happy for her. And now I got myself back in DC, and Alex Hormozy is starting to blow up around this time in 2022. So I'm watching his stuff. I get an ad for Ravi Abuvala's Remote Integrator Academy. So basically it teaches you how to automate businesses, how to use Make and Zapier, how to do this stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'll invest in myself. I'll invest in the SNME 500, like Alex Hormozy says. So I put 8K into his course. Yeah. I put 8K into into Ravi's course. I get the skill. I start my own agency, and kind of like what we were talking about, like, I know how to build some technical things because it's automations. I have to know it, but the agency model I love so much because I get freelancers on Upwork and Fiverr to do it for me. My job, and the job of most CEOs and founders, you'll notice, is to pump business into the business. Like, that's the lifeblood, is sales. all I'm doing is sales. That's 80% of what I do is
Mhm.
sales. Like I just call people, connections, first, second, third degree connections, cold calls, cold DMs. That's all I do. And I have to pump business into my agency, and then I get people who are skilled, more skilled than I am usually, to do it. That's the agency model. So that's what I do. And been doing that. And then I realized, hey, I have this other skill. I've negotiated for remote work to work at the most. That's the hardest sell ever, is to tell your boss, hey, I want to go to Hawaii. And I got my boss to do that. So I'm like, I'm going to teach people how to do that too. So I started an offer, corporate nomadism, CNA, corporate nomadism accelerator. Already helped
Mhm. Yeah, I
5
saw that.
employees. Yeah. I've helped 5 employees leave their office but keep their salary, and it's made a lot of people really happy to have that location freedom. They're really excited. They love working with me, so I'm going to keep that up.
Okay, you cut out there a little bit. So you said you got you do the remote work negotiations, and then you
Yeah.
put some what metrics did you just say that you have?
So I've helped like 5 employees leave the office and keep their salary. So it's a 3-step process. I work with them. I get endorsements from within their firm, people who can like affirm they're hardworking. I only work with corporate employees who are in good standing. Like if you're going to put your water bottle on your keyboard, I don't want to talk to you. Like you have to value labor. So it's just put together a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know how your boss thinks because I run a business. So I know certain KPIs, like they want to hear like what your effect would be if you go remote. So I just put in their language into the proposal, and then they tend to say yes.
That's very interesting. Cool. So I have a couple questions about your agency. So you did that course. You said you invested $8,000 into it to learn how to do some automation stuff. What exactly did you learn how to do? Like who, and then who do you help out? How do you find leads and people to sell your business to? And then also, how did you find like the back end, the people to actually do the work for you?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start with the front end stuff. That's I use Apollo.io a lot for scraping LinkedIn leads. LinkedIn leads are by far the most highly qualified leads I found. You can filter by geographical location, which is massive. Because if I was pumping a lot of cold emails before and I was just getting responses from places that are very sketchy, let's just say that. And with LinkedIn, I can say I'm looking for C-suite executives in the marketing space who live in North America, right? And I can say I want a company size of 1 to 20. So I know that they haven't scaled that much yet. So there's a lot of room for growth. Put that filter in, and then Apollo.io is going to send my outbound message, and then all the follow-ups, like the certain cadence, it'll just do that automatically. So I love Apollo for that. And then the back end, what was it you asked? How do I find
How do you find the people to do the work for you?
Yeah, developers. So I look on Upwork more than Fiverr. Fiverr is more of the really quick, like freelance type work. Upwork has more like professionals. They like care. You can see how much money they've already earned. Like these are the highest paid people. Am I being cut off? I kind of. Hold on.
Yeah, you're kind of lagging a good bit. I mean,
Okay,
usually, as long as we
back?
can hear you, it's good because Riverside compiles it.
Yeah, we should be good on the back end, but it's a little bit choppy.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the Montenegro Wi-Fi.
So, yeah, right. So when it comes to like somebody who might want to work with you, what I guess what do you frequently see in terms of A, what industry they're in and what they are doing for work, and then B, just like their overall situation and their desire to actually want to work remote? Like what kind of patterns do you usually see that make for a good potential client to work with?
You're talking for my agency or for my agency or for the corporate people?
Yeah, for your agency. Well,
Okay. Yeah.
are those, yeah, so for someone who wants to work with you to take their job remote and like I guess What
Yeah, that's the corporate
do you
people.
find that they're usually doing, and then why do they want to work remote?
Yeah, usually they are one of three people. They're either, and I call them the reluctant city dweller. These are people who don't want to commute, so they pay really high rent to live near their office. So these are very expensive cities, like people in LA, people in New York City, downtown Manhattan, right? They're paying 3, 4K sometimes in rent alone, which is insane. And they don't have to, right? They are consultants, so professional services, they're developers, they're in creative spaces. This is all remote friendly work. So they see my content, they see what I do, and they come to me and they're like, "Hey, if I could pocket 3 to 4K a month, like that's a total no-brainer. Help me do that." So that's what I do. The second type of person is a like a side hustler. These are people who they're glad they get paid every 2 weeks. They have the salary, but their real interest is in something else. Either they want to start or they have started, but it's like they don't have the time that they wanted to dedicate to it. So if they were to be remote, they would have more time to dedicate to it. So I have one of my clients, Alex. He did that. He left Alexandria where he was living. He started living remotely, and now he's launched his two businesses, and he's fully switched over into doing just those two businesses now. So that's the second type. The third type of person is a travel bug, right? These are people who are getting paid in dollars, euros, and they have a lot of purchasing power, and they really just want to leverage that. So they go to Bali, they go to Mexico, and they travel like that.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Did that get cut off?
All right. Yeah, a little bit there. I think we got the gist.
We heard the bulk of it.
Montenegro.
All good.
That's funny. Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
I guess real quick, what exactly does your agency do? Like, what do you sell to your clients for the agency, not the corporate?
Yeah. So at first, I used to say I can do a suite of AI services. I can do anything from prospecting to fulfillment. People don't want to hear that. I mean, you're in door-to-door sales, like you know this. Like you need to identify pain points and just stick it to those pain points. So I'm actually in the process of niching down, like figuring out what that is. I think it's going to be lead gen because that's what I help with the most is lead gen using Apollo and other scraping tools. And there's a whole thing called lead gen agencies. Like I might just transition to one of those, but that's the main thing. And then the key is to upsell the other services. If you notice like their CRM is a mess, you notice their invoicing is a mess, you just say, hey, we can use Go High Level, we can use all these other things. You just improve their life, so they'll pay you for it.
Okay, I do have a question. You don't have to get too specific about this. So,
Yeah.
Going back to when you were traveling the world with your girlfriend, like I see all these travel influencers. How exactly did these people make enough money to keep up with that lifestyle? Like, who's paying them to do it? Is it just sponsors? How do you get sponsors? How's all that process work?
So most of them are broke. Just heads up, like most of them are dead broke. And we met so many of them. Most of them are broke. This girl, though, she's brilliant. Brilliant. But she's also like business savvy. So there's a thing she would do is she has a very high quality camera. And she would go to these hotels. She wants to go to a certain area. She researches the hotels in that area. She goes to their websites and they're like, hey, your picture, and she sends screenshots, is choppy. Your video's a mess. I'll just take these for you. And people, these websites, these companies would pay top dollar for these types of photographs. So she gets free stays. We would get free stays. To just do that. That's just one thing. The other thing is like marketing, because like she has an audience, like a specific audience of travelers, not just any travelers, like mostly like North American girls. Like they are the top consumers in the world. Like they spend so much money. So if you can get all these girls to these North American girls to go to a certain hotel or certain place, those hotels will pay top dollar for that. So she's like, all right, I will not only take your pictures and you can keep them and license them, you can also I can post it, and so she would get paid for posting the things as well. And then there's like different things like like brand deals. She negotiated in a really good time too because travel was really at a downturn. So she got into touch with tourism agencies. So Argentina paid her to go to Argentina. So stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really neat. She's definitely smart and savvy. That's interesting to hear. The hotels would want some pictures, so they give y'all just a free stay to take some nice pictures for them.
Yeah.
That's pretty brilliant. Not gonna lie.
You
Yeah.
never
No.
know
So
what's behind sending that email or shooting that phone call to the concierge and just seeing how it goes. It sounds like she not only has the skill set, but she's got the ability to reach out to these people with big pockets and make things happen, which is
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. She props to her. Hope she's doing well. I know nothing about her, but she also introduced the
Yeah.
concept of funnels to me. So she heard that getting an email list is brilliant. So this is for all your listeners. Build an email list because an email list is a great equalizer. You could get an email from Tony Robbins or Dean Graziosi, Russell Brunson, like all these top guys. And if you send an email, yours could be sandwiched there too. Right? There's no discrimination. Like you will get your email. So people will read them. Like also, you write them once. Like you write one email, your welcome email, then you write like week 2, week 3, week 4, and you write them once and they're there forever. Every time someone opts in, they'll get the whole thing and they just get just ever longer. You talk about some kind of offer you're building. They feel like exclusive. They can see you growing it and building it. Like having an email list is one of the best ways to monetize ever. Also, if you have an audience, typically, here's a rule of thumb. If you get about $1 from every name, every email in your email list. So if you have 1,000 names in your email list, you typically can make $1K a month, typically on like offers and stuff. Like it's a typical breakdown. So yeah, the bigger you grow email list, you're just gonna make more passive income. So
How do you grow that? How do you grow that email list and find those people, those emails? Did you say it
making a
was like
super
if you were on the Tony Robbins or whatever?
yeah,
What'd you say?
like I'm saying that the email, no matter who the sender is going to populate in inboxes the exact same. So you could be a super top marketer
Okay.
like these people, but if you send an email, they'll still get it. I would use the newsletter model, like just weekly cadence, tons of value, tons of entertainment, but mostly value. Free lead mags that talk about your main offer, so they just get a lot of free value, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Esteban's free stuff is this good. I wonder what his paid stuff is like." Right, so it's like a value ladder.
Interesting.
What advice would you give to someone who doesn't have that big audience yet? And yeah, just general tips when it comes to getting to the point where you can have enough eyeballs to have that kind of email list.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the size at all. So I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram. I'm at 3K, but I doubled in size in the last 6 months. Like before that, past 2 years, I had been at
Okay.
1.5K. But it's the quality of those followers. Like those are tribe guys. There's a lot of business owners in there. So it's the quality of those people. Like those are like high purchasing power people. I also have a podcast. The podcast has I think 5K downloads, but they're all like business owners, right? So like I'm getting inbox emails from people who want to be on my podcast because they're like business owners. They know that the consumers, like the niche market, are business owners. So focus on the quality of your audience, not just the size. That's the first thing I say. The second thing I say is just post like a psycho, like post every single day. And even if it's like 4 seconds, so you guys have hours and hours of content already with these podcasts. Like just post one rant every day. And just also model Success Leaves Clues. Find the top podcasts like Chris Williamson, all these guys. See what they're doing because they pay top dollar to find people to look at trends and research. If they know that, oh, we want to zoom in on the first frame or we need to like put the text at the mouth all this stuff. They've paid people to do that. So you just look at their content and just literally copy it. Then you're saving yourself a lot of the research phase. The R&D, you just skip. So I would suggest that, and just post every day.
Yeah, that's smart. Because these guys are paying a whole bunch of money to professional advertisers that look at all the data and trends. So you, instead of doing that, you could just see what they're doing and copy it. That's good advice right there. I have another question for you. Since, I mean, you're not old, but 28.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to an 18-year-old kid coming out of high school? Let's say he wants to start a remote business, do the online stuff. What should he get into? How should he leverage his skills, or find out what his skills are, and then be able to leverage those into a certain type of business? So say they're really tech savvy, maybe an AI automation business would be good for them. How do you start? How do you find where to start for you?
Yeah. I would look at what's known as the value triangle. There's time, money, the time, capital, and effort. Any deal has those three parts. Typically, someone who's 18 doesn't have the capital, but they have the time and they have the effort. So find someone who has capital already, an old person, a mentor, or just someone with a lot of capital, but who they typically don't have the time or the effort. So plug yourself in that way. So get yourself into rooms and situations where, like, hey, you have the capital. I will work X number of hours for you. I will get these results. I'll do all this, and just give me 30% rev share or something, right? Just negotiate that. But I'll basically be a workhorse because I'm young, I have the time, and I have the effort. I need to like grow. You'll get a lot of yeses that way. So that, just think of that deal triangle. Those are the three.
How do you
pieces.
find mentors?
Yeah. The best mentors.
How do you find mentors or people
ones,
with capital like that?
Like the books, like you can find dead
Yeah.
ones. They're really good. But yeah, to actively do deals today, I think a really good shortcut is these communities. There's also the age of like celebrity, like Warren Buffett, these actors, like that age is slowly dying. There's more of an influencer model where you're actually subscribing to people. Your Ty Lopez's, your Russell Brunson's. You will pay for access to their exclusive content, certain podcast episodes, unlisted YouTube videos, like that model. If you subscribe to your mentor first, and like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, you just deliver value, you engage, you leave comments, you ask questions, you download all their lead mags, your name is going to get more familiar with them. And then eventually when you're like, hey, I'm 18, I've done what you said in your content, I've done the steps, like you show the effort. Is there any opening in your team? I saw that you have an opening on your website. I'm 18. I would love to do this. Like, I've already done your steps. I'm already in your methodology. I have your psychology downloaded, basically. And to extend yourself that way. But in the meantime, if you want to work with people your age who do have capital, stuff like that, it's the digital communities. Digital community model technically is another subscription model, but that's the best way. So
I guess, would you be worried? So say your son was 18 and wanted to do like kind of what you're saying, but then you kind of, like, I don't know about you, but when I was 18, I was pretty undisciplined and didn't really work as hard. And if I really did sell out and didn't go to college, I probably would have just been more lazy than efficient and productive.
Yeah.
So, like, would you be worried, say you had a son that you watch him, he's like playing video games instead of actually doing stuff, building up an agency or whatever, or learning or networking? I guess, what advice would you give to those people that are not as disciplined? Or would you say, hey, maybe you should kind of go to college for a couple of years and figure out what exactly you want to do and build up a little discipline? Or what do you think?
yeah. And I'm so glad you asked that, Danny, because that's one of the main things that my brand is all about. Is I don't demonize wages. I don't demonize college grads. I think that people have different paths in life, right? So with that, I was kind of like you. I was really good in, well, I did well in high school. I like studied, but I didn't really like.
Yeah.
I didn't really take it seriously. Like I studied, I got good grades, but I didn't really develop work ethic. So when I got to college, I had free reign. I actually got arrested, got 4 charges, all like alcohol related.
Yeah.
Got them all expunged. But I was just like reckless. I didn't have that discipline. But I think college is one route. Military is another good route of like forcing discipline into your life. I think those are good. I don't think they should be demonized. And then the other one is the corporate environment. I think being in a corporate environment does shape a lot of people up. Like a lot of people, you do 1 year in a corporate environment, you sit your ass down and like do what you're told for a bit. Sometimes it breaks you and you're like, I need to get out of here. And like I told you, I was actually happy in that environment because I was so reckless. I kind of needed that. But it wasn't until I was forced to start my own business that I would love to take credit for starting my own business by myself and wanting to, but that's just not my story. Turns out I'm good at doing it, which thank God. But no, certain people are different. So I would explore that.
One thing
that's
I
definitely
would
true.
wonder, now that you've had all this experience, is so you're making your money online. You have this freedom to, now you're in Montenegro. You were in Barcelona yesterday. I'm definitely someone who is a big travel bug. Tell us a little bit more about some of the places that you've been to, as of recent. So, ever since you did start kind of really, ever since you did blossom into this international lifestyle, what are some places that you've been to? And then what are maybe some future plans that you had? I know you mentioned Madrid. Why Madrid, Spain? So yeah, just a little bit more about your past travels and future plans.
Absolutely. So Madrid, Spain is it attracts, like, in general, in cities in general, attracts certain types of people, certain type of personalities. Madrid attracts more ambitious types, more young people. There's a lot of old money there. That's where the king lives, right? So it's very aesthetic, very clean. No skyscrapers, so it's like the old facades of Madrid for like hundreds of years. You'll get the balconies, same balconies your great grandfather smoked his stogies in. Like you do the same. It's all there. So that's Madrid. That attracts me a lot to it. Barcelona, the first time I was there was the last time I was there 15 years ago. I didn't really like it that much. It's kind of like LA. It attracts more vibey, artsy type, bohemian types, which is fine, but not really for me. And so Madrid, especially like cities in general, when you're young, those tend to be watering holes for other young people. So I love nature, for instance, but it wouldn't be good for me to go into the mountains and just be a hermit. I'm supposed to mingle with people. Iron sharpens iron. So Madrid offers all that. So yeah, and this is my first time in the Balkans. It's also my first time in Eastern Europe. I heard that their culture is a little bit more different. I'm excited to experience that. I speak a little bit of Russian. I know they don't speak Russian here, but there's more like Serbian and Montenegrin. But the whole Eastern European mindset and philosophy, I'm excited to experience, and that's what's nice about traveling. You get to see different life, ways of living life, right? Life mottos. So you can just see those in action.
So
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
pretty
to
awesome.
kind of play off of your response there with, and by the way, I think that's a great point. It's actually something I've talked about in a previous episode, just being around kind of the action, right? When you're young, I guess why not go to like Dubai or Bangkok or back to Singapore, for example?
Yeah.
Like why specifically what do you like about Madrid in terms of maybe it is the feel, that European feel, or just the lifestyle that you're able to get there?
Yeah. For me, it's the people. Like I've been going to Spain for 15 years now. I have the citizenship, so that makes it easy. But it's also
Nice.
the language. Like my first language is Spanish. Like if I had to do a head count, I do dos, cuatro, seis. Like I think in Spanish, right? So I don't have to translate things. I can just express. So it's great that way. The other thing is the girls. The other thing is
Hey.
the other thing, honestly, the other thing is like I would be in Dubai the kid I met
Mhm.
for lunch earlier today, kid in Geneva, he does half the year in Dubai, half the year in Geneva. I would do that, but I'm also 28. I'm starting to think about certain things. Honestly, like the only thing I knew I wanted to be since a little kid,
Mm.
like 100% I knew I wanted to be was a father. Like I want to develop a family man type um, persona. So there's certain things I need to consider. I'm like, Madrid offers that as well, so I'm just looking at that, considering that, looking at schools, all that stuff. So,
Yeah, that's a
Nice.
great segue into exactly what I was just about to ask you. Where you've been all over the place, and I 100% like envy that. That's awesome when you're young, travel. But like you said, you're thinking about maybe in a little bit settling down. Definitely a life
mm,
goal is to be a father. Where
mm,
would you want to start a family? Are there pros to cons about, like, obviously you grew up in America. Would you want to come back
mm.
here for a family? Opportunity wise for your kids? What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that annoys me is like when I travel abroad and I meet other Americans who are abroad also, how quickly they shit on the U.S. I don't think they realize the United States is the best country in the planet by far. It offers so much
Bang.
opportunity. Like it really is. It's amazing. Particularly psychology wise, like it's not just in Spain or Southern Europe. Um, it's also in Latin America. If you stick out, like if you just stick out from your peers, they're gonna hammer you down. They're gonna try to like
Hmm.
it's a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Basically, they'll say things, but in the United States, you quite literally believe you can be anything. Like I don't know how many classmates I went with who thought they could be the president of the United States. Like that's a normal thing, right? That's not normal everywhere else. It really isn't. So that American like ambition is something that I would like to contage, like give that to my kids. But I think I can do that myself. I don't think I really need to give them to a blue-haired teacher in a public school. I don't think they would do it.
That's a
Also,
valid
the
criticism.
I think also the mother tends to play a huge role in developing the morality and the psychology of the child. So Spanish community is so good for that. Um, in the United States, I love the United States, but it's very individualistic. So your partner, this is something I learned in my past relationship. Your partner ends up being everything. They end up being your best friend. They end up being your business partner, your tax advisor, your your spouse, but also like your side piece. Like you trying to like do mysterious thing. Like you're trying to spice. Like they're everything all together in one. That's not natural. In history, like you had a community, right? You find people who like fill certain holes and do things for you, and you do things for them. Like that's what a community does. That's what a tribe is, and you just find that effortlessly in Spain. So it's the social side is just so locked in. So yeah, I think the mother is going to be pretty mentally healthy, spiritually healthy. So I think in general, I just want to give my family options. So if my kid wants to go to school in the States, like go ahead and do that. If you want to go to school in Europe, go ahead and do that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna stay in Spain for a while.
What sort of
Awesome, awesome.
environment would you ideally like to be in? Like, would you still want to be in the heart of a city like Madrid, or maybe would you want to be kind of out in maybe like a suburb type of area? Where would you want to be placed at when it comes to having family?
So shout out to Will Coomer for this. You have to visualize it, right? Like, and I have a screenshot of the picture of my future house. It's in my Notion. I look at it every day.
Okay.
It's La Finca. It's called the neighborhood is called La Finca. It's like northwest of like Madrid proper. It's like these big houses. Cristiano Ronaldo lived there. Like those are the areas. Beautiful green grass, and the cool thing about Spain is that it's tiny, like relative to the States. Like I have friends in Spain that consider a 40-minute drive too long. They have family 40 minutes away, and they haven't seen them in months because they're 40 minutes away. Like I shit 40 minutes for breakfast, right? So it's a small country. I can go. I can do it
Literally.
whenever I want. So That's it.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I got a question for
Yeah.
you, and I've never asked this on the podcast before, but for some reason it just kind of popped into my head. And maybe the reason why I kind of wanted to hear your answer is because I don't have an answer for myself. But Matteo, what do you think your purpose is? What's your calling like for your life?
That's a good question. I know it's people related because at the absolute
And you
center
could
of
say I don't
everything I
know.
do, yeah, it's not clear, but I know it's related to people. I at the center of everything I do is try to make people laugh, try to make people feel good and be a bit better after coming across me, and me like picking up something from them and like just having an effect on each other. Like, I think I'm very intentional about being that type of light source for people. So I don't know what it is specifically. I don't know if the AI agency model is like what I'm built to do, but it's definitely about improving people's lives, making them better. Like I just love people, bro.
Yeah, there you go. And like you said, you kind of want to be in Madrid. What's your career path as you see it now? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now, kind of on the more money making career side of things?
Yeah, this is the cool thing is,
Or do you have a plan?
yeah, I kind of have a plan. So the cool thing about the entrepreneurship space is you learn so many different ways of making money. There's one thing I would like to do is like just have equity in like growing businesses. So last year I was involved with like an AI startup. Um, they had offered me equity. Things happened. I didn't end up getting it, but like those opportunities, like you can literally just tap in, grow, pump in a bunch
The
of
venture
value into
capital.
something, project, and then like, yeah, that is something that's aligned with who I am because it's like a lot of BD, business development, a lot of sales, a lot of people things, like closing people. I'm a closer. Doing that lights me up. So doing stuff like that, just building equity, just things with equity, and that also falls into real estate. Eventually, I would like to just like build a big portfolio, maybe Airbnbs. Just tell my mom, hey, this one's empty, go there, do this, like just take care of people. But yeah, I don't see the maybe selling the agency if it gets big enough, that'd be ideal. But yeah, it's more like on the equity side.
Yeah, then how do you get connected with, like you said, that opportunity that you kind of had? Is it these groups that you were talking about, Compass and Tribe and stuff like that, or is it just your network?
Yeah, it's yeah, joining digital communities is an absolute cheat code for sure. The other thing is just location. Go to the best gym in your city. Go to the best cafes in your city. You will just hear conversations. If you're interested in, let's say, real estate, and you're sitting in an honest greens in Madrid, and you hear some guy talking about, hey, we closed this property on La Finca, you can just like that sound will pierce through everything. You'll just stand up and be like, hey, I'm involved with this. I just got my license. And you just close. You take advantage of those windows of opportunity because they're windows, they'll close. Like you have to like take advantage of that. I met so many cool people who were outside of Tribe, outside of Compass, but they were at my same gym, they were at my same cafe, and I said something. Like that's the way to do it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of great advice, Mateo. I definitely appreciate you having on. Your story is very interesting and a lot of great advice. I guess to close out, kind of, what would you tell your younger self, your 18-year-old self? What advice would you give that guy?
I was a romantic until 2 years ago. Like I had a I don't want to talk about girls too much because then we'll extend another hour. But I think your job as a young man is to just grow, and growth at the end of it is a painful process. Like you have to decay and let things die and break in order to grow, which means
Like the
that you
Phoenix.
can't just have it all, right? You can't just like have your Beyblades and your and your Hot Wheels, and also like try to run a business and hire people. Like you have to leave childish things behind. And one of those childish things, at least for me, is not idolizing, but putting women on a pedestal. Like that is something I wish I hadn't done. But yeah, you live and you learn, right? You talk to people. That's another thing. Do not take advice from people. Like if your uncle is just gonna start spewing, don't be disrespectful. Just like listen, whatever. But don't digest advice from anybody. Like only digest advice from people who have the results that you want. That's something I would tell myself too, because I used to just listen to everybody and just, oh, okay, cool, I'll do that. Don't do that.
Yeah. Anything else you want to plug? Your agency, podcast?
Let me ask him. Let me build on that real quick for a second. So,
go ahead.
I guess one thing I would ask you to speak to me literally as someone who wants to pretty soon here move out of the United States, stay internationally, hopefully for quite a long time. What advice would you give to someone like me in terms of, say, your first, say, 6 months out of the country, in terms of networking, like how to just meet the most awesome people and build the best network possible, and then B, making sure that you can sustain an online income? Because I do have, in the back of my mind, whenever I'm going to worry about something, sometimes I might think, oh, if I get out there, like, what if my online money dries up, however it is I'm doing it, whether it is sales, entrepreneurship, and I worry like, oh man, like I don't want to have to, come back to the US with my tail between my legs type of thing. So yeah, in terms of like getting the best start possible internationally and in that sort of entrepreneurship space, like what advice would you give to someone, for me, in, let's say, the first 6 months out there making it happen?
Yeah. I'm going to answer in two parts. The first part is literal, and then the other one's going to be more like the mindset of something you just said. So the literal thing is before you book your flight, before you book anything, already establish relationships with certain people you want to be with and live with someone. Like going by yourself, solo traveling, like I'm doing, I'm 28. Like I've done it. I know my habits. I know certain people, and I already have an established network. I can plug myself. Literally, I was just in Geneva for a few hours. Like I have people. That's not your case, most likely. So you probably need to just go with people, like young people, or at least people who are in your same boat. Live with them, because you guys are going to sharpen each other. Like that is the best way to like get an Airbnb together, right? Don't go crazy with going out. You guys are on a mission, right? Like there's going to be a lot of fauna out there, especially if you're getting paid in dollars. Like be careful. And yeah. So let's focus on that. Also, realize the blessing that you have. Like you're going to be traveling, you're young, and you're trying to build something. So if an opportunity presents itself, there's like a meetup on the other side of town, there's like a big dinner with someone, take it. It might like hurt your bank a little bit, but these things tend to give a lot of dividends later on. Like don't be a hermit. Even if you like try to justify it by like, oh, but I'm already in Medellin, I'm just gonna lock in. I know kids who are so locked in they don't even like know the town they're in, right? So like I would try to be more of a traveler rather than like a tourist. Like go lock in, get your money, get your bag, but also like live life. Like you're young. It's a really special time. Okay. The second part was your mindset. You had said that you're worried about coming back to the States with your tail between your legs. Just saying that
Worst
is like
case,
planting a seed. Yeah. But I think that it's like a reframe. Like say you go to Medellin, Bali with people, and you like start an e-com store and you just don't make a buck, right? You had just fast-tracked so much business acumen, social acumen, everything. Stories, dad lore. Like you did a lot of things that do not quantify into a failure, right? So it's having like more of an abundance mindset to be like, I cannot fail because I'm doing things, right? The worst thing you can do is be stagnant, and you're doing the complete opposite of that. So I don't think going into something with fear helps. Definitely like be like strategic, to be like, all right, I'm not going to put everything on a shitcoin, but like be strategic, but don't look at it as like a failure.
Right. I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
such
it's good
thing as
stuff.
failures.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
Real
that's
quick,
about
I
all I
forgot.
got.
I did
I'm
want to.
good.
I did want to get your 2 cents on whenever I watch your YouTube channel. You're like, yeah, I've read probably more now, like 80 something books on the
Yeah.
self-help business. What's your thoughts on all the books that you've read? Why people should read? What should they read? And then maybe like a couple of your most influential books that you've read or something like that.
That's a great question. I think every young man, particularly 18, this is going to save you a lot of pain and save you a lot of things. And I wish I had read it sooner. Is how to deal with the other half of the world, which is women. So there's this book called The Superior Man, The Way of the Superior Man. The title's a bit like, whoa, what is this about? It's not red pill garbage. It's literally how to like be a better human, be a better
It's a
partner,
great book.
understand the other person. Yeah, it's a really good one. So I would do that just to be a good, better human being. Just do that. And then for like business side, $100 million Offers by Hormozi, goated book. Such a good book. Leads is good too, but Offers is first for a reason. Like learn how to build an offer. Because I did the mistake of thinking it's build it and then they will come. I built offers that nobody asked for, nobody wanted, got very few sales. Like you don't want to do that. So you want to like put out an MVP, minimal viable product, test it out, do that stuff. And so that book covers a lot of really good business principles. And then more of the mindset side, that's really good. This is going to be such a cheap answer. Everyone's read Meditations by Aurelius, but it's a good one. It's Stoicism is a prerequisite, I think, for maturity, like full maturity, like mental maturity, like, not overreacting to things.
Did you say Meditations?
Yeah, Meditations by Aurelius.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And like with your reading, how have you seen your speech, maybe your articulation, has your thought developed over the course of when you started reading to now? You know, how has that matured you? Do you see any difference, do you think?
Oh yeah. I just did it a few minutes ago. When someone talks to me, I make bullet points of like their main points, and then I usually address in the same number of points. That's why I said I'll answer your question in two points. That's from reading. Like that they structure their thoughts into paragraphs. So if you want to go back to paragraph, like that's basically how I talk now. I talk in ideas and block them up, and I respond in blocks also. So that's also pausing. Some books, some chapters, they like just break it off in the chapters, but then you'll notice these little like squiggly lines between certain passages. That is just to break a completely different idea from another. When you talk and you take a pause, I mean, you're in sales, you do this too, but like if you pause, it's a super powerful way of really letting them digest what you just said. So that's another.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
I cut out?
A little bit. I think we got it though. Well, this has been fun, Matteo. Esteban, do you have anything else you want to ask? Thanks for joining us. I definitely learned a lot. Hopefully everyone pays attention to what you're saying, especially if you want to do the whole remote thing, travel the world, e-commerce. A lot of great advice. Read some books, guys. Expand your knowledge, your network. Anything else you want to kind of close with that you want to tell the world out there?
Yeah. Take risks, take imperfect action, move forward, adjust as you go forward. There's no such thing as a perfect time. All lights will never be green. Just go forward. Yeah, and you can find me on social media, YouTube and Instagram and Twitter at Roscoe Teo. It's half my last name, half my first name. So Roscoe Teo. And yeah, the podcast is Plus Ultra. Love to have you guys on. Honestly, we can cross pollinate audiences there, introduce your program. And yeah, Corporate Nomadism Accelerator. Corporate Nomad Accelerator. There's a school community now. It's free for you to join. Just go into any of my links in bio. You can join for absolutely free. You have all the resources so you can be remote yourself. I'm not going to charge you. And if you want to automate your business, you have a small and medium-sized business, I can automate your workflows. That's veloxis.io. And yeah, I was really pleasantly entertained and informed with this podcast. You guys are great. You guys are good hosts. This is good. Good questions.
No, thank you. You're a great guest. Well, guys,
Absolutely.
we'll put it all in the description there so you guys can get connected. Let's do another one, Matteo. We'll do one for your side. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All I
Appreciate it,
have to
guys.
say closing out is I hope to see you out there in the real world at some point. Like I said, kind of before we started recording, I hope to, I got a couple connections. We have a couple mutual connections, and I definitely want to dive into some of these groups and just meet some awesome people like Matteo. I'm excited.
That's what it's all about, bro. It's all about people.
Yep. Thanks for
thanks,
tuning in,
Esteban.
guys.
Thanks,
It's been
Danny.
real.